Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this evening's discussion on how to listen to your body and how to respond to what it's telling you. I'm Karishma, the editor-in-chief for Tatler Singapore, and I'll be your host for this evening. We all know that good health is truly the greatest luxury of all, but we often ignore or are unaware of the signs that our bodies are transmitting to us. Why do we feel bloated all the time? Why does our body react when we're mentally stressed? This evening, we've invited 3 individuals to discuss these answers, as well as the broad topic of wellness itself, wellness in all its senses, whether it's our mental health, our emotional happiness, or physical well-being. Cheong Xiaowei, the Southeast Asia editor for Gen.T, will be moderating the discussion, which will run for about 30 minutes. We will then proceed to do an audience Q&A before we conclude the session with some closing remarks. Now, just for some housekeeping matters. Today's session is being recorded and the video will be posted on Tatler and Gen.T's web and social channels. This is a closed-door event, and we would love to see all of you on your screens. So please do turn on your cameras if you can, but also please a reminder to keep your mics muted. For questions that you'd like to ask our panelists, feel free to drop them in the chat box, and we'll try to answer as many of them as possible during the Q&A. This is a space where we're all learning, so all questions are welcome. If you didn't get your question answered in the end, you can reach out to me or my team, be it Laura, Xiaowei, or myself, and we'll follow up with you. The chat box is also open for you to interact with your fellow attendees, so please feel free to do so anytime during the session. Finally, if you're posting about tonight on social media, you may tag us at the handles as well as use the hashtags that you see on your screen right now. Before we move on to the next section, I would like to thank our partners for this evening. The dinner box that was sent to all of you was specially curated by the Summer House, which has been thoughtfully designed to be both healthy and delicious. In the box, you will also find a curated card that has been co-written by our panelist, Sabrina Wee, where she has kindly given us an easy-to-execute tips on how to live more mindfully. And of course, we wouldn't have been able to do the session today without HSBC. As a global bank, HSBC is focused on helping individuals live out fulfilling, rich lives with no financial stresses. As such, we have with us Maxine Teo, an accredited legacy planning keynote speaker, who will share insights on retirement planning, on how one's health is intrinsically linked to financial wellness. She will also be helping us set the stage for a discussion later today with some insights on wellness in all aspects of our lives. Over to you, Maxine.
Thank you to our very lovely host, Karishma. So a splendid evening to all our guests this evening. As we talk about mental wellness today, let's start with financial wellness. How healthy are your finances? So the topic, well, I have about 10 minutes, so let's make every minute count. And do give me a holler, Krishma, if I'm like sharing with so much enthusiasm that we need more time for our panel. So as we take a look at the content, let's bring it on. Happy mind, happy retirement. What a lovely picture, right? If you can visualize that. How do we make our finances strong? So let's start off with one of the very timely reminders. Well, this article was earlier in this year on May the 1st. So there was a mention here because during the entire pandemic that hit the world and brought many of us, the world to its knees, that's where mental wellness became a huge topic. It's been so huge that it has affected many of us in our ability to work, our ability to be mindful of our financial wealth. So if you don't have mental wellness, how can you better manage your financial wealth? These two are interrelated. And that's where we want to be mindful that, as you see here, the effect the coronavirus has had on our mental health, our daily stress, we need to make sure that we take care of ourselves. And that's where it leads to the topic today. So we are not just talking about our mental wealth right now, but the retirement, looking ahead, what's going to happen at the end of the time when we are all finished working and accumulating our wealth. Do we have enough to enjoy that lifestyle? So planning for retirement now feels daunting for some of us. Like, oh no, that's so tiring. I got no time for that. It should be okay. But how well protected are you? How well are you able to sustain the lifestyle that you want when you don't have to work for money anymore? So here you go. I've got a few strategies to bring in just before we bring in our panel of speakers to talk about our mental wealth. Let's talk about your financial wealth first. Strategy 1. Do you know that we are living longer? I think there are a lot of ladies in the house. Even today, our entire panel, I just noticed just now, we are all women. Women generally live longer than men. Well, in my opinion, it's because women talk about our issues, we let it out, whereas men, generally speaking, not all of them, tend to hold back. So whether you are thinking of spending a wonderful, expensive kind of retirement, the fact is, due to our advancement in medicine, many of us are living longer. As such, are you prepared for a longer retirement? Because the fact shows that Singaporeans are unprepared for that. So here, you can see here that, whoa, many of us are spending our old age, not in enjoying life, but paying doctors. Yes, I know there are many doctors in the house. You can attest to that, right? And that's where some of us may say, yeah, it's all right. I've got so much wealth. I can use that to pay for my health, my medical bills. True. But why use it as a form of expense? Why not use it as a form of investment on your well-being? Eat good food, travel the world, do what you want to do. So that's why I want to be more mindful of how do we plan for it. So here we know that the cost of healthcare is going higher and higher over here because our medical advancements, they are key drivers. They're shooting up the healthcare costs. The medical inflation rates are climbing every year. How well are you hedging against that? So that's where we talk about the second one. Now, the first one, you want to start thinking longer term, longer horizons when you're planning for your retirement. But secondly, along the way, how well diversified are you? We've all heard this phrase before. I never put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, but how? See the key message here from Business Times last year, June 24th, heading here, Singapore Wealthy, tap insurance for wealth and legacy planning. Since I started specializing and speaking a lot on this topic back in 2011, that's like 10 years now, right? I've seen the trend. In the past, we're always talking about like real estate investments, how to grow our wealth, like boom, boom, bang, we're thinking about high risks. But nowadays, especially when our mortality has been challenged, many of us start to think, what if? How well diversified am I? Am I putting all my investments into real estate, into stocks and shares? Because all these are illiquid. That when something happens, it takes time for the money to come out of it, right? So that's where many of the high net worth clients like yourself are probably already on it. You are leveraging different financial tools in the market to help you hedge against that risk. So as we think about looking at this chart here, this is a study done by the EY. In fact, EY is Ernst & Young's. They have tied up with the insurer, and here they came up with this thought leadership research studies. Let's take a look at the one that's in the red dots. Here we're talking about severe market fluctuations. In terms of the biggest bold here, most concerned, many of us are very concerned about how stable is the market, because it is not that stable right now. And that's where, are we planning well enough to diversify, to hedge against all these uncertainties? Because if you are not, that's where when the uncertainty happens, which already did, many of us have been caught unaware, and a lot of our investments were wiped out in the past 2 years. So since we are already more mindful of it right now, as we talk about the mind, how mindful are you about your financial wellness? And that's why we take a look at this one. This article is from Sunday Times, just about, in fact, just last month, right? It was an interesting feature on women. Generally, we say plan while you can. And that's where the latest survey shows that we all need to be more mindful, more prepared, especially among women. Because this article featured that we tend to depend on children. I'm not sure about you, but my sweet mother, I'm so grateful. She is well and alive, although she's in hospital right now as we are speaking. She's 80 years old. My mom is a traditionalist, born in the 1940s, and she's born in 1941. As you all would know, World War just ended or just started. In fact, at that point, until now, they still believe that children should look after them. Who has parents who still think that? I have a son. My son just turned 20 this year. I know, thank you. Do you think I depend on my son to take care of me when I grow old? No, I just want the best for him, that he can be independent. Just don't ask me for money when he's 40 years old, right? And that's when I think a lot of parents start thinking, how well protected are you financially, taking care of yourself, whether you're a business owner, you're a professional? Have you thought about that? So as we come to hit the key 3 points, in fact, we are in very good time, right? The first point here, before you can talk about your health and all that, you need to make sure, do you have the financial wealth to take care of your health? And without a good health, you do not have the energy, the mood to go and enjoy your wealth and your life. They are all interlinked, right? Second key message here. Do you have emergency funds? Because many Singaporeans don't. 1 in 3 don't. They can't even last 6 months, right? So when things happened last year, many of us just depended on the government to hand out to us. We don't want that. We want to plan ahead. We want to be ahead of the game. And that's where we talk about the 3 strategies just now, right? The first one was, remember, we need to definitely plan for a longer retirement. Secondly, are you diversifying? Thirdly, are you planning ahead? Are you really taking the steps, the action steps, to really make sure that you hedge against all these unexpectancies? So in the closing note, before I hand the floor back to our lovely host, it's something for us to think about. So of course, today I speak on behalf of the entire event in aspect of your financial health. Moving forward, you can reach out to your financial institutions, such as HSBC, because they invited you, or rather they sponsored the event, right? To find out how they can help you in terms of your retirement planning, your wealth management needs, because different banks I work with, they all have different solutions. And in fact, after this evening, I believe our HSBC staff will be contacting or reaching out to you to provide some details about a gift that they have prepared specially for you. So do take this opportunity to consult them on how they can help you to prepare for a wonderful, happy retirement. So looking forward to share more insights with you. So at this point, back to our lovely host, Karishma. Thank you.
Thanks, Maxine. And you definitely don't look like you have a 20-year-old son.
Oh, thank you. That's thank you so much. I'm glad. See you.
Thank you for sharing your insights. Maxine will be staying on as we hear more from her, as well as a nutritionist and a mental health expert on how we can inculcate good habits and live happier, more fulfilled, and healthier lives. Xiao Wei, our moderator, will take over from here. Xiao Wei, over to you.
Thanks, Karishma. Hi, good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. But if you're not, I hope that you will find some answers today. So I'm Xiao Wei, and I'm glad to be here facilitating what I hope will be an interesting conversation about our personal well-being. So throughout the discussion, we will be launching polls to find out your thoughts as well as your knowledge of wellness. All results will be anonymous, so we hope that you will feel at ease to take part in them. So let's begin the conversation. If we think back 2 to 3 decades ago, wellness was very much about fitness as well as nutrition. But today, consumers have a much broader perspective of the term. It's no longer just about keeping fit, looking fit, or putting the right food in your body. It's caring for your overall physical and mental appearance and health. So even before the pandemic hit, many of us were already aware of how important personal wellness is, or at least we've heard these words a lot. So the global wellness market is, after all, valued around $4.5 trillion, and it's still growing very, very much. So recent data showed that at least 42% of consumers globally consider wellness as their top priority. But are we really following through with actual action to take care of ourselves? So hopefully today's discussion will shed light on that and how we can consciously take action in protecting ourselves and taking care of ourselves. So as Karishma mentioned, we have invited 3 panelists to help us understand and also provide us with insights on today's issue. So we have Maxine, who introduced herself to all of you earlier. We also have Sabrina Ooi, who runs a mental wellness platform called Calm Collective Asia, which recently held its first virtual conference to discuss all matters about the topic on mental health, including rethinking failure and managing stress. Last but not least, we have Teresa Pena, who is a registered holistic and culinary nutritionist whose passions lie in education and healthy eating. So Teresa focuses on helping her clients to balance their hormones and also improve their gut health through nutrition and lifestyle support. So welcome, panelists. If you guys can please switch on your cameras if you haven't. I think we all have you on camera. Okay, so welcome, panelists. So my first question to the three of you is, what does wellness look like to you and what doesn't? Maybe we can start with Sabrina first.
Okay, hi everyone. It's super nice to see some familiar faces here as well. So wellness to me is, it's really holistic, right? I talk a lot about mental wellness, obviously, but I do think that wellness has to be looked at as from a holistic perspective. So we have to be thinking about physical wellness as well as mental wellness, of course, and other aspects would be, from a social perspective. Are we connected with other people? Are we also connected with ourselves? And I think the financial wellness is also a big role in this whole like umbrella, right? All of it's interconnected, and we need to look at it as a big picture and not just standalone, trees on its own.
Thanks,
Okay,
Sabrina.
That's about it.
Thanks, Sabrina. What about you, Teresa? What do you have to add to that?
Well, I mean, I agree obviously with everything that she has said, but I think as a nutritionist, I've always seen the body symptoms. What is your body telling you? It's how's your mental health? Are you happy? Are you, not having different mood swings? Are you more engaged at work? Does it take you more time to focus, or are you easily engaged? And also different other symptoms. Some people don't even think that they're actually your body talking to you, like cravings. Like most people think that they're having a craving for chocolate because they just want to have chocolate, but actually your body is telling you that it's lacking some kind of energy, or you're stressed, and your brain does want you to kind of switch off from that stress, and it wants you to focus on something else. And the easiest way is to actually focus on food because it gives us comfort. So sometimes the cravings give us those signals that we don't really understand, and we just fall for them, but we don't really know why. And then obviously stimulants, like, if you're craving for coffee first thing in the morning, your body is telling you something. So for me, it's when you sleep well, you don't need stimulants, you don't have cravings, you're happy, you can focus. All of that tells me that, that you're well and happy.
Thanks for sharing that. So I would like to just bring our attention to the poll results. So thank you so much for taking part in it. So we asked you guys, which is the most important aspect of physical wellness for you? And the most important for everyone is having good sleep. So maybe Teresa, can I get you to continue? Do you see a similar trend with the individuals that you work with? And what are some of the most important goals that they hope to achieve when they come to you?
Yeah, what is really interesting is when my clients come to me, sometimes they come for a very simple reason. It might be weight loss. They want to lose weight. But when we look into the reasons they're actually coming to me, and we look at what their body symptoms are telling them, they realize that there are layers and layers of things happening. And once they address those, it's not just that their weight's coming off, because it will come off once that imbalance has been fixed. It's actually they start feeling better, like, oh, I sleep so well tonight. What was that? And then, they're more focused in the morning and they don't feel tired in the afternoon. So once you realize that there's certain imbalances in your body, then you change your goal. So your goal might be, I don't know, hair loss or weight loss, or you're going through menopause, or you're having bloatiness. But then your goals actually change as you have a discussion with your nutritionist or your mental health care, and you realize that there are much more hidden that you need to address. So yeah, at the end of the day, everybody wants to feel happy, well, and free of pain and discomfort. So yeah. but sometimes they don't know where it's coming from. So we just have to find the root cause of it.
You're on mute.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that. So I want to ask a difficult question, but before that, consumers are becoming more discerning and also health conscious these days, but we don't always pay attention to what our body is telling us, like what you say, Teresa. Sometimes we don't know what's going on with our bodies. So maybe it's because we are busy at work or we've become desensitized to feeling discomfort, stress, or pain that we don't realize when we need to actually take care of it. So I would like to bring this attention to Sabrina first. The question is, what do you think is the underlying instinct or emotion that makes it so difficult for us to perhaps make healthy decisions for ourselves?
Well, I think that firstly, we are not taught from a young age whether whether a certain action or whether a certain situation is healthy or unhealthy for us. So I think first of all, we are really lacking the education and awareness. And I guess in our own current busy lives, right, we tend to get carried away with with productivity, with getting busy, and it's really hard for us to pause and check in with ourselves, whether it's with our minds or whether it's with our bodies, to see that or to notice that, hey, maybe something is wrong here, right? So I think the main constraint or the main challenge here is that we're very caught up with our lives in general. We're always seeking to like fill up our calendars, even if we have a day off, right? We are trying to maximize our day offs. We can't just do nothing and listen to ourselves and check in with ourselves.
I think
does that help?
There's an obsession with staying productive, right? Especially
I
now
think
during
so.
the pandemic. There is so much focus on keeping productive and making sure that we are constantly doing effective and efficient work. So Maxine, what would you add to what Sabrina has said?
I'll share firstly from a mental wellness point of view and the financial wellness point of view as well. I think a lot of us are so obsessed with being okay that we think it is not cool and not brave and not responsible to say that you are not okay. Right? I think there's a trending phrase here is okay not to be okay. Take myself, for example, right? I'm like perpetually 100% of the time when people see me in public settings, like, oh, Maxine, how do you stay so positive, so energetic? Are you ever down? I was like, seriously? Of course, yeah. Just that I cannot show it. I tried it before when I got familiar with some of my fans who would call me and it's like, how are things? I want to be inspired. And they just called me at like really late time and I was tired. And I just let it out. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling a bit tired right now. Oh my God, what happened to you, Maxine? You're not chirpy anymore. Oh dear, are you all right? And then suddenly I realized that, oh my gosh, I think the society is very punishing, right? They don't let you feel that it's okay to let your guard down. I think that is really affecting our mental wealth. And one of talk about the financial angle, many of us are very bogged down by a lot of issues in life that are related to finances. Yeah. When you have no money, you have issues. When you have a lot of money, you have more issues, right? You have more things to worry about, right? You worry about people stealing your money, people cheating your money. You worry about your money being lost because you have built it out. You cannot afford to fail. You're too big to fail. I think that is a big, big issue that affects not just your financial wealth, but your mental health as well. Feeling too emo right now. Okay, back to you now. Speaking from my experience.
Thanks so much. So yeah, I think a lot of the focus is preserving wealth, especially whether you're a high net worth individual or a regular folk who is earning a decent salary. Teresa, anything that you would like to add? Maybe what can you share? What is the underlying emotion that makes it so difficult for us to be happy?
Difficult, tell the truth, and I see this all the time when people try to make changes, is breaking habits. That is the hardest. It's not just because of you, but it could be social pressures, your family, it's your work, it's the stress. So sometimes we just cannot cope with everything. And so it's really hard to kind of put something new into your routine. That is not really adding something new, it's just changing it slightly. And I always tell to people that, making changes is really hard, it's very emotional. And it's always good to just take one thing at a time and just take one small goal and try to just kind of make that small change. Could be from I'm gonna just reduce coffee from 3 to 2 cups a week, and then the following week reducing more, and then maybe something else like I'm gonna add 30 minutes of walking every week, once a week, and then twice a week, and then just adding that onto your routine and make sure that it's consistent, because otherwise, and having people to do it with you, because otherwise you don't have that accountability. So I always say it's about breaking habits. It's really, really hard. Most people don't, and that's why people don't stick to diets, and that's why people don't stick to things, just, breaking that habit. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing. So Sabrina, just now you mentioned that sometimes we're unsure how to check in with ourselves, right? Are there any simple but effective questions that we can think about or we can ask ourselves? And how often should we be doing this?
Right. Well, I think some background to just the idea of checking in with ourselves, right? I think for me, I found that oftentimes when I feel stress, it usually comes up physiologically. So my body is the one that reacts, and I don't realize mentally that I'm not feeling right. So, for example, I'll find that I have digestive issues, I can't eat properly, no appetite, or I could also be craving like chocolate cake for some reason, and I normally don't eat chocolate cake. The other thing is also, I also find that I find it very hard to sleep. So when that kind of thing happens, I really make myself like slow down in order to like check in with myself. So the questions that I ask myself usually there are 3 questions. Or actually 4. So first of all, I'll ask myself, how do I feel right now? So I'll name my feelings. I'll take some time to name my emotions. I actually have my own personal like rating scale as well. So it's a rating scale of 1 to 10. How am I feeling? If it's between 7, 8, usually it's kind of okay. 10 maybe it's like, oh, I'm too excited about something. And then if it's anything below that, I'll try to understand a bit more, right? So in order to understand a bit more, I'll ask myself, what am I letting go of right now? And by naming what I want to let go of, I recognize what I'm holding on to. So I ask myself, what am I letting go of? Oh, okay, maybe the fear of failure, for instance. Maybe I'm letting go of comparisons. Sometimes I find myself comparing myself to others when I'm like, hang on, it's actually my own race that I'm running, right? And then the other question I ask is also, what am I grateful for? Because that actually helps me ground myself back into the present and recognize both the small and big things that make me happy and make me who I am. And then finally, the final question I ask is, what am I focusing on? So that kind of helps me move ahead. So those 3 questions.
What about you, Teresa? What are the questions that you think we can ask ourselves to check in with our actual physical body?
Well, your body is going to send you signals, isn't it? So when you have, infections easily, your mood changes, you have different kind of bowel movements. So you know that something is not going okay with you. So you need to really check with you, like what's happening. So for me, it's like, do I feel rested when I wake up? If you don't feel rested when you wake up, so you're obviously having issues between your, adrenaline, your cortisol, your melatonin. So, obviously you need to regulate things like that. Am I happy with my bowel movements? Do I go every day? And sometimes I kind of like when I chat with my clients, I'm so normal for me is talking about.
No, healthy bowel movements are, I think, like, a source of joy for everyone, right?
You just find it too easy to talk about that. So it's like, oh, I don't, haven't been in the bathroom for 3 days, so, that's kind of is a question you need to ask yourself. Do you feel tired after meals? You shouldn't really feel tired. If you feel tired because you have eaten too much of something, your sugar blood levels are going really high, and then you had a crash. So obviously that is not good. Is my period regular or painless? Am I happy? Do I feel happy? Do I want to have a coffee? That is something like, do I need a coffee? Because sometimes we just grab the coffee, but do we actually need it? No, maybe not. Okay, so let me grab maybe a herbal tea or a smoothie or something else that is actually going to nourish my body. So those kind of questions we need to ask. Because sometimes, as I get, it's just a habit. So just do it. We don't even think that there is anything wrong with what we're doing.
So just staying with you for a bit, Teresa. So healthy eating sometimes gets a bad rap, right? Because some of us might think that it means that the food isn't very appetizing or it's all just about salads. Your approach to eating well is not just looking at what you can or can't eat or going on diets. It's actually also listening to your gut. What does this mean and what are the long-term advantages? And also, is this approach suitable for everyone?
You mean
improving your gut health? So what does it? Yeah.
I mean, it means everything. I mean, 80% of your immune system resides in your gut. So that means the response you have against inflammation, about your mental health, your sport performance, your hormones, your digestion, detoxification, bones, skeletal, health, everything. It depends on the health of your gut. What happens is when we're absorbing the nutrients, if you're lacking stomach acid, you're lacking of digestive enzyme, if your microbiome is not balanced, if you don't have a healthy, rich, microbiome, think about your microbiome as a building, a construction site. Every bacteria, every strain has a different job. So when one is lacking or missing, or you don't have much of that, then that job is not being done. So when you're not absorbing, let's say, vitamin D or iron, sometimes it's not that you're lacking of that, it's that your body is not absorbing. And so sometimes we just eat more of that, but that is not the issue. The issue resides on, hey, you have to improve the microbiome. The way we feel, sometimes it's really regulated by the type of bacteria. So we all should take it more seriously. And before I actually put and implement anything else, I always start with the gut. Let's have a look at your gut health. And from there, then about 50 or 60% of the issues resolve when your gut micro is actually rich and healthy. And then you can fix and kind of work on other things. So absolutely 100% gut health. And the only way to do that is not just to eat a lot of vegetables or fruit, it's actually the variety of vegetables and fruit. And plant-based, especially plant-based foods. I mean, nothing against eating meat or fish if you're inclined to do so, everything in moderation, but plant-based food is actually what is going to feed your microbiome. And there is a little test that everybody can do at home. It's just for a week, do the 30 types of plant-based foods challenge. And that is every time that you eat a type of fruit, a veggie, nut, seed, herb, a spice, just write it down on a list. And at the end of the week, have a look and see if you have reached 30 different types. If you have, then you are feeding your microbiome the right way. If you are in between 10, 15 is quite poor. Anything over 25, you can say okay-ish, but try to aim for 30. And see how, and it's a way to kind of check how your microbiome could be. So definitely try that.
Thanks so much for recommending the test. I think it's quite an easy thing to do, right? 30 plant-based types in your diet every week.
Exactly. Not how many. So if I say tomato on Monday, if I take a tomato on Monday and I have it again on Wednesday, I don't count that twice. It's just tomato because it's every type. So some people just eat tomatoes, lettuce, and cucumbers as vegetables. And that means that, their diet is a little bit poor, microbiome-wise. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So Sabrina, going to you, mental wellness is now a billion-dollar business, right? As more people are turning to programs to cope with burnout, stress, anxiety, depression. So your take on mental wellness is that awareness should be for everyone and not just for those who are dealing with mental health issues. What do you think are some important things that people should know about mental health, and also what are some dangerous misconceptions about mental health that we need to address?
I think the initial line that you shared, right, was exactly one of the misconceptions that we've been trying to eradicate with Calm Collective, as well as our latest Wellbeing Festival, CalmCon. So what we've heard a lot from, from the corporates we're speaking to and also individuals is that while mental health has been on the rise in terms of, it's being talked about a lot more, there's still this misconception that mental health is only for those who are struggling, but it's not. Mental health is really for everyone. It's part of health. It's just one part of, you know, the whole health bucket, right? So that's one key thing. We shouldn't be seeking help for our mental health only when we are really struggling, only when it's too late. A lot of the times, people seek help when, you know, it's really too late. It's possibly akin to stage 4 cancer. So like in my own personal experience, I only sought help for my mental health when I was arrested for attempted suicide, and you know, I got jailed and everything. And at that point, it was only at that point where my family realized that, oh, okay, we should probably look into this, right? But before that, I was trying to seek help, but I was met with the idea that, hey, it's really just with a lot of feedback that you're just seeking attention, you are probably going to be able to sleep it off, you shouldn't be taking medication, it's for crazy people. So I think this really captures the essence of like all the different misconceptions, right? So first of all, we should be taking care of our mental health proactively, as opposed to looking at it only when it's too late. And there are lots of simple steps that we can take to maintain our mental health. We can even visit a therapist on a regular basis. We don't have to be super unwell to go see one, to just check in with ourselves. It's like going for a health checkup, like a physical health checkup. Another thing is that, yeah, people with mental health conditions are not crazy. That's very important. Oftentimes we see in the media that, you know, if someone has done something wrong, people are quick to assume that, maybe there's something wrong with them. They're mentally not right, which is, you know, a possibility. However, it's just a really, really minority segment of people who live well and thrive with a mental health condition. So I think that's something that we have to bear in mind. We shouldn't be quick to judge, but rather seek to understand.
Thanks so much for putting that out there, actually, because I think one of the most important things about mental wellness is also how people respond to people who are going through a difficult time, right? Definitely. It's not about discounting what they're going through, but also kind of understanding what they're feeling.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's just really important that people understand mental health on a personal level, rather than seek to, I guess, make people who are going through struggles as, you know, just classifying them as the other. That's not me, because I think Maxine, I think you mentioned that we're all under pressure to be okay all the time. And that's a problem as well. Like, it's okay, this is very cliche, but it's okay to be not okay, right? So that's the other one.
So Maxine, I would like to go to you now. How does our mental health actually affect our eligibility to invest in like health-related protection solutions in the market?
Thank you. I was just still a bit stunned and very touched by the sharing. Thank you so much for sharing your deepest, you know, we all have that dark side, that previous life, and I think that results in how we behave in life as well. And in my course of work, in working with clients, some of them have got a history of, in the past, whether it was depression, mental wellness, and because of their instability, it does affect their eligibility to purchase solutions that is linked to their health, because they will be asked questions like, any history, any medication, any relapses. The moment you indicate that you have had a mental health issue years ago or under medication, damn, now that's where certain companies can be quite harsh. They will either totally reject you, or they would call rate that premium. That means they'll charge a huge premium on top of what you're supposed to pay. And on top of that, even if all that works and you manage to get a solution, but if you do not take necessary actions, whereby, well, talking a little bit about the legal side, having worked with a lot of lawyers, that's where not many of us have appointed lasting power of attorney, right? LPA for short, because that is directly related to our mental well-being. In the event something happens to us, we lose our mental capacity to think, make decisions, and we're not dead yet, you know, we are still like well and alive, but you do not know what's going on. That's where life insurance plans cannot be claimed, because you are still alive and you do not have the mental capacity to activate any of those plans that you've bought, and you'll be stuck in a limbo. So there are two parts I want to highlight to everyone, which you can have a conversation with your advisors or bankers. Firstly, right, if you have previously had situations of health issues, it's not the end of the road. Okay, do have conversations with them, because if it is long ago and it's there's a certain waiting period, it varies for different companies, we can still go ahead to purchase it, whether it's for life or health and so on. And the second aspect is, if and when you have done all that, to really have a more holistic approach, right? There are different wealth planning tools in the market. So including life insurance is just one of the key 8 ones. Others will involve like advanced medical directive, but the one that I just mentioned, LPA, lasting power of attorney, that's where you need to appoint someone whom you trust. So in the event when we lose that mental capacity to make decisions on what kind of lifestyle we want to have, what kind of food we want to eat, it can all be spelled out while we are still very clear in our minds. Also, 2 aspects to be really mindful of. So back to you, Michelle.
Thanks so much for sharing. So we just actually launched our second poll, and we asked you guys, how often do you think about how you're feeling or coping mentally? And I am actually quite glad to see that most people say either very often or quite often. So that's a very good thing, that we're all thinking about how we're doing emotionally as well as psychologically. But I think a lot of what we've been talking revolves around self-care as well as self-love. And for some of us, there may be a sense of guilt attached to thinking about this thing sometimes. So Sabrina, how do you think we can rewire ourselves to see the benefits of looking after ourselves? And yeah, how do we rewire our brain to see the benefits of looking after ourselves first?
Yeah, no, I know where the guilt comes from, right? Because like as we grow up, we're always told like, oh yeah, you gotta take care of your older people, you gotta take care of everyone. We're in a we're raised in a collectivistic society as well. We have to think about the greater good
Others,
and the
yes.
others, everyone, right? But anyway. So the way I've reasoned it out, right, is that we are able so first of all, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you are completely depleted of any energy, time, resources, then you can't take care of other people. So you have to be able to take care of yourself first. And the best way to do it is to set aside that time, make yourself a priority, and make sure that at least you are well, so that you can take care of others even better. So that's how I reason things out. Like, it's not, it's okay, you can stop people pleasing. It's, you don't have to feel guilty. So that's why I tell myself a lot.
What would you add to that, Teresa?
Well, from a nutritional point of view, I would say things like mindful eating. And, that is looking after yourself. Sometimes we just eat without thinking about what we're eating. Our brains, as I said before, switches off when you're under stress and tries to move your mind off to something that gives you comfort. So we just, especially now that we're working from home and that we have the kitchen accessible to us 24/7, that's dangerous. We just go to the kitchen and grab something. We don't even think, why did I actually do that? There is an exercise that everybody can do. I'm happy to share. And basically, I always tell people, when you're working, you're under stress and you're going to go to the kitchen to grab something to eat, do this test. Open the fridge, get an apple. If you don't feel like eating the apple, like you see the apple and you're like, nah, that's not what I want to eat, then you're not hungry. You don't want to eat the apple, you're not hungry. So you just get out of the kitchen, go back to work, drink a glass of water, get yourself a herbal tea, hydrate the body, and your body doesn't know the difference between dehydration and food. So sometimes when you think you're hungry, you're actually dehydrated. When we feel that dryness on your lips, it's actually extreme dehydration. So you shouldn't get to that point. But the body doesn't know how to send that signal of dehydration. Sometimes we go and grab something to eat when actually you need water. So do the apple test, just whenever you feel hungry, and instead of grabbing something to eat, just stop for a minute, be mindful, and think about that apple. Another way is planning meals. That's another way of looking after yourself. Planning the meals for the week. Just take a day, sit down and decide, okay, I'm going to do this. let's get the lesson red mark. Just put it on your calendar. I just put my meals on my calendar and just have it there. Because when you do that, it makes it easier for you to stick to that plan and eat healthier. When you're eating healthier, you want to stick to that because you actually feel healthy and happy. So it's easier. And then obviously, you know, just make sure that you do some kind of exercise every day and moving every day, you know, just to complement all of that. Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about self-care, right? But most of our hours in a day is usually spent at work. So health and productivity are two very intertwined matters, and we know that from the pandemic. But to lay down the facts here today, what do you think are the costs for when companies or leaders don't invest enough in ensuring that their staff are in good physical or mental health? Maybe we can go to Maxine first.
Thank you. I sense it coming my direction. As a matter of fact, if companies think that, you know, penny wise, pound foolish, like work you to the T, you know, maximize productivity. And when they fall sick, they start to claim on the insurance, right? And then sometimes if it's just outpatient, that's where they claim for doctor fees. And it's just silly, right? Penny wise, pound foolish. Right? This way, firstly, not just physically, the health that it deteriorates. I think the mental health, the motivation, the frustration, it all just lowers the productivity. So I will sum up as there are tangible and intangible costs. The tangible ones, obviously, the bills chalk up. And in the past 2 years, many organizations which I work with, they engage me to give keynotes, power training on to boost your morale, mental wellness. I was like, I think that is like trying to put a handy glass over a wound, right? You have not actually stopped the bleeding. The bleeding is still happening. It doesn't help. That's where we do more consulting work over a long time. We said, if you want to bring down that tangible costs, firstly, you have to work on the intangible effects, right? Which is, instead of just pushing them, is it because the managers do not know how to motivate them? That's where we go to the root of it. And how do you use the right words? How do you connect? Like I shared with you before this session, I was conducting a session on managing hybrid teams in the new normal. A lot of us don't know how to do it, resulting in a lot of failures in health and then chalking up the medical bills. So in summary, we have to look at both so that we can really have a healthy, robust, and productive workforce.
So Sabrina, I saw that you kept nodding just now to some of Maxine's points. What would you add to what she said?
I mean, like, first of all, the thing that stood out for me when you talk about workplace well-being is so we've been running a lot of talks at Calm Collective, and the most popular talk to date is probably the one around burnout. And hey, people are really burnt out right now, and this has given rise to the whole trend of the Great Resignation as well. So I think the biggest cost to a company is really turnover rate, right? It's really about reduce. So I mean, the companies that are going to be looking into well-being programs or even looking into the culture of their companies, they will really be working on the goal of reducing turnover rate, maybe reducing absenteeism as well, and overall increasing employee happiness and productivity. Because if they're more engaged and if they're well on all aspects of well-being, they're going to be able to perform a lot better and be more connected. So yeah, sorry, I was just like really excited listening to Maxine. Great speaker. Yeah. But I think, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you want to continue?
It's okay.
Okay, so corporate wellness programs also have to work for the employees, right? It's not just about leaders putting them in place and saying that, hey, we have this. So Teresa, how do you think corporate wellness programs can actually really work and not just be a performative act by a company?
I mean, the corporate world is all about, you know, checking with the staff, isn't it? What do you need? What do you need help with? And obviously providing, like if the companies have good canteens, you know, a canteen, just always providing good options for food, and having people like us, you know, mental health, advocates, nutritionists, people that, into sports, is to kind of like go more to these environments and to educate and talk to people about options, and how it's like, hey, there is no time for cooking. Well, let me share with you what you can do in less than 15-20 minutes. What kind of snacks are healthy? What can you have around in the office? What it's easier or not. And then when you have that information available to people, then in a way you're helping everybody, because it's going to improve the productivity, the focusness, the happiness. You're going to have less absentees. And so at the end of the day, it's about not productivity, but looking at the root cause and looking at, hey, where do we need to start? Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about the food that we're eating. I don't know if you've seen, but we're back in Singapore to levels of diabetes and obesity that, from over 10 years ago. And obviously the reason for that is working more from home, the stresses of COVID, the stresses of work and family, and having to cope with everything. And we just go and grab comfort food, Deliveroo, Grab, and all of that. And we're not really thinking about that, how that food is affecting our health. And so I think as a company, is their responsibility to offer as many tools as possible. And it could be through webinars, it could be through cooking classes, it could be through sharing resources, programs, like challenges, things like that. So companies definitely need to reach out to those companies to find ways to motivate their workers and staff to take care of themselves in every way.
So I'm glad that we're actually talking about corporate wellness, because our third poll found out that not many of our guests' workplaces actually have such a program yet. So hopefully with what you guys have shared, some of the leaders can actually take away this advice to share with their own leaders and also their management. And I'm glad to see that from the chat box, June, your company has quite a few wellness programs, and they are usually scheduled during work hours and a few can attend. I mean, I think that's a great initiative right there. But there is so much more that companies can do to make sure that their people are taken care of. So maybe we can wrap up this discussion, because we are already at 7 p.m. and I would like to just go to the Q&A very quickly later. So if I could wrap up the conversation, Sabrina, Teresa, what would be a simple way that we can break a habit that isn't doing very well for our body or our mind? Either of you can go first.
Okay, I think that obviously always start slow. Wean off, especially if let's say coffee is not good for you. Let's wean off coffee. How I'm gonna do that? Let's start slow. Don't go cold feet. It's gonna kill you. Don't do that. How can I replace sweets by other forms of sugar that I really enjoy that are healthier? So start replacing things. Don't take things away. Just replace. That's more important. Listen to your body for those body signals that I discussed before. Are you sleeping? You go to the bathroom, how you feeling rested in the morning. And then things like taking part of a challenge or a reset program, that is a great way. Like January is coming up. And so it's always a great way to say, hey, I'm going to start making some changes. So doing like a little bit of a reset program to help you to kind of like organize yourself, that is great. And try to do with a friend. It's always great to join something with a friend, either a class, exercise activity, a challenge like go sugar free, or I'm going to reduce alcohol for this month, and just try to get a friend or a family member to do it with you. That's going to be, and then start doing your meal planning a little bit better, because when you meal plan, you buy the ingredients and then it takes you very little time to actually do the cooking, because you have everything and the idea and the ingredients. Most of the time you don't cook because you don't know what to eat, you don't have the ingredients, so let's just buy something and deliver it. But if you are a little bit organized and it takes maybe half an hour a week, then you're fine.
Sabrina, what about you? What do you think is a simple way that we can break a bad habit?
I always go for social accountability because I don't trust myself to keep to my habits. So what I normally do is I will at least loop a few friends in, or I can declare it somewhere online in the world so that I have to follow through. So for instance, I found medication adherence very difficult. So when I was first diagnosed with bipolar disorder, I was like, oh no, I don't really want to take this thing. And then I forget, right? I forget. And then what I did was that I basically set up a WhatsApp group. and I put a few friends, family members in, and I was like, okay, guys, I'm doing this, right? So I can't fail them. I
So
can fail
see-
myself, but I can't fail other people.
So there
pleasing.
seems to be a commonality between what you're saying and also what Teresa is saying, is kind of to bring in some social support and
Yeah.
also to bring in some social accountability, right? Do it with friends, bring in family and so on.
Or declare it on your social media channels.
That is the current way, what
Yes,
millennials
exactly.
and Gen Zs would do, yeah.
Yep.
And my final question to Maxine is, what would be one piece of advice you'd give to our audience on taking care of their health, such that they can take care of their financial wealth as well?
Thank you for leaving the final question for me to round up. In fact, I'm very inspired by all the food analogies, right, that Teresa and Sabrina talk about mental wellness. I think we can tap on that. Just like we want to be very mindful of what we put in our mouth, right? Regularly check in on the type of variety that you have in your diet. Likewise, for your financial wealth, my advice is to speak to a professional. I know many of us are business owners, we run businesses, but it's very different when you try to manage your own finances. Speaking from a first-hand experience, you become very flexible with how you spend money. It's okay, I need to buy that special something. I'll make up for it next month, right? You need a very disciplined approach. What goes in, how it is diversified. And if you are planning ahead, again, leveraging what you said earlier on, you don't want to burden others. So take care of your financial wealth so that you can take care of yourself and not expect your children or people around you to do it for you. So it's a very disciplined, consistent method that you're going to adopt for your financial health so that you can really, really enjoy it. And pairing with the mental health, nutritional health, I think today is a really holistic dish that we've cooked up for all our Tatler members. So on that note, thank you so much for having me and having all of us. And back to you, lovely host.
Thanks, Maxine. So we're going to move into the Q&A very quickly. And because we don't have many questions, but Karishma, thanks for asking the question, which I think is quite important. And I think it's probably directed more to Sabrina. So what are some of the signs or symptoms that our body tells us when we're on the way to becoming burnt out? Feel free to jump in as well, Teresa or Maxine, if you.
No, I'm
if
sure
you
Teresa
like
will have much to share as well. But yeah, but so just to preface everything, I should have probably said this earlier. I'm not a doctor, and I think the doctors in the room would probably know a bit better. But I can just share from personal experience and the symptoms that my body has told me when I was on the way to burnout was really around stress, right? So I would have problems with I would have stomach aches, I would have headaches, I would have trouble sleeping as well. And then the other thing that was for me quite interesting was that whenever I'm facing like work or my boss in my past life, right? I would actually sense some like anxiety as well. So this is in the form of like heart palpitations. I feel like, oh no, I don't really want to be here. I'm really tired. This is really draining me. So those signs actually indicate that I need to take a break. Yeah. So I think it's really important to pick up on these signs and allow yourself to rest. Whether it could also just mean you're taking a regular sick day off as well.
I think that jumping on that, it's another one. It's your immune system gets very compromised, and so you start falling sick very often. So that is a big sign. When that's happening and you're getting the flu very often, you're really feeling like hives, sores, those kind of things. It means that your body is falling down because of the stress. Your hair falling down also is a sign that you're very burned down. And especially sleeping, if you're not sleeping well, it means your cortisol levels, if you think cortisol levels are very high in the morning and very low in the night, and melatonin is very high at night. So what happens if our cortisol level, our stress is really high, instead of going down by the middle of the afternoon, that's when it starts coming down and your melatonin comes up, it kind of keeps up. And that means that it's going to take you longer to sleep, and the melatonin is not going to hit, and it's not going to, allow you to rest well. So those kind of signals are telling you that your body is not functioning well because you're burned down. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I think that's a great place for us to end. That's all the time we have tonight. Thank you, panelists, for your insights and time as well. I hope that everybody in our audience found some useful tips or had some of their questions answered. I'll now pass it back to Karishma for some closing remarks.
Thanks, Yahweh, and thank you, speakers. I personally learned a lot today, and I think if there's any one takeaway for all of us, is that the most important thing is really self-care. We can only look after our loved ones if we're truly okay, happy, and healthy. Thank you again to our partner HSBC for enabling this evening's virtual discussion and leading the way in helping us live better. And to all of you watching, thank you for joining us during your dinner time to be part of the conversation. We hope you're leaving with insights into how small changes in your lifestyle can have an outsized impact on your overall health. A final thing before we end, HSBC has prepared an exclusive spa experience for attendees who have agreed to be contacted. The concierge team has arranged a treatment at the Mandarin Oriental Spa, which, like today's topic, is all about wellness and mindfulness. The treatment you'll receive is the Time Rituals treatment, which will help you unwind and rejuvenate and relieve the daily stresses. HSBC will be in touch with you soon about this. If you have any further questions for any of our panelists, you may reach out to the Tatler team and we follow up with you. And that's it from us. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, I'm Karishma and good night.